Good afternoon. Thank you so much for being here, joining us on our third masterclass, this time with the great Takács Quartet. The Takács Quartet is one of the leading quartets performing today, and they are celebrating their 50th anniversary season. They have a concert here at the Martin Theater tomorrow evening, in which they will be performing the works of Ravel, Nocturnes, Nguyen, and other pieces. But we're particularly excited today that they are here at the Steens Institute to work with our fellows. During the masterclass, you will hear 3 quartets by FANNY Mendelssohn, György Ligeti, and also by Beethoven. And the Takács Quartet will engage with our fellows in working with them. Today is actually a day that I think of as very much our in-action days. Performing artists actually play a very important role in formation of performance practice. The Takács Quartet, of course, they're phenomenal performers, but they're also highly respected pedagogues. They are in residence at the University of Colorado in Boulder. And as they tour, they also teach young quartets and young musicians. And as they're performing themselves, they are forming this performance practice. And it is so exciting for me personally to watch them in action today as they work with their young fellows, passing on this performance practice. And it is also very interesting to see how what is being transmitted to them will then take over in the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. In other ways, this is also an in-action day. So even though it is actually not open to the public, later the quartet will be engaging with our fellows in an open rehearsal where we actually get to observe how they as a group rehearse. And we can learn so much from the process of rehearsing and putting together a piece of music. That is only one of the other things that they're doing besides a masterclass. We have other things going on today with them, which we are so grateful that they have decided to give us so much time, particularly on the day before their performance. So please welcome the Takács Quartet and the performers of our Steens Institute. Thank you.
wonderful performance. So beautiful. Such a strong point of view and beautiful sound. Wonderful quartet playing. You know, the group vision is very inspiring, and you bring this piece to life in so many ways that I've never heard before. There were so many things, exchanges and conversations, and beautiful colors that I've heard for the first time, and I want to thank you for that. I'm wondering, in the first movement, such a beautiful opening, right? Gosh, magical in its own way. What are some of the things that you've worked on in this opening, and what are the things that you love about it? What are the things that you find challenging? And sometimes those things are the same, right? How do we feel about this beginning? It's a very unique opening, right? I mean, not a lot of pieces begin this way. She doesn't give us a ton of information, right? I mean, there's a dynamic, there's a cantabile marking, but not that much instruction, right? Do you guys have any thoughts or anything that you might have discussed in rehearsal?
I think one of the things we're trying to do is trying to differentiate the singing part and then the speaking part. So, and also because the phrases are so sort of run on, and we're trying to find different colors and articulations to try to make it as an evolving creature, or yeah.
Yes, so thinking a little bit about the syntax of the line, whether we're speaking to each other, singing to each other, and how to do that with articulation. Is that some of the things that, absolutely. What else? What else have we, does anyone else want to jump in?
How soon the sound should become rich and deep compared to the individual kind of icy texture of each voice.
Yes, how the sound as a quartet evolves throughout the line, from, I think you used the word icy, is that right? To something more rich. Beautiful. Do you guys want to add anything, or?
She has an interesting marking on the first note.
Yes.
This hairpin that looks like that, and so we've been trying to shape it together. And it's interesting to me that it doesn't go to the second note, but it ends in the first.
Maybe that's a nice place to start, that hairpin, that discussion. We've talked about that moment too. What I love about what you guys do is you bring a real pathos and a real kind of sorrow to the soulful quality to it. Can we try the opening one more time? And let's try to look for some opportunities where within that sorrow and sadness, that there are these moments of hope and vulnerability and this idea of maybe reaching for something else. Can we try the beginning one more time? Beautiful, beautiful. How does that opening feel, the very, very first bar? Yeah, and I'm wondering, it's in the spirit of experimentation, I'm wondering if we could try a version that starts a little bit less assured. I mean, this is always the question, right? When you start a piece and it's piano, you don't want to sound hesitant, right? But I also wonder if we could maybe experiment with that line a little bit so that we begin with almost an up-bow feeling of asking a question where the note has a little bit of, I don't want to say discomfort, but a feeling of insecurity in a good way. Like we're going to search together. So I think one of the things that's cool about this movement is clearly we need to make decisions as a quartet, right? You got to play the concert, you got to play the master class, but in the spirit of decision making, if it could also include this feeling of searching. So I'm hearing like decisions a little bit more than I'm hearing the searching. And I'm wondering if we could change that around. Can we try at the beginning one more time, then we'll go on, and maybe we'll highlight the subito pianos coming up in this next sequence. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. I think we could even give each other permission to do what we always tell each other not to do, which is to rush. So when we feel more searching, you could have kind of almost like a rushing feeling in your abdomen, like a feeling of rushing blood or a feeling of circulation. So that it doesn't feel I'm exaggerating, I'm teasing. But there's this feeling of open-eyed wonderment, and that the subito piano takes that away from me. Again, I don't want to take away from the beautiful, soulful, sorrowful feeling that you guys are giving. I get a deep sense of pathos from you. I don't want to take that away. I think I'm being greedy. I want that, and I also want this feeling of reaching for something more. How tragic is that, right? And also this feeling of a story that's about to unfold, like you're opening up a fairy tale. This sequence that we just got to with all those suspensions, those yummy, yummy suspensions, again, can I be greedy? I love those suspensions, but I also think it's a cello melody. Can we try this one more time from the sequence of this reaching quality? Uh-oh, I see some giggles. Can we make a plan that, like, we know that we have a good version in the bank, right? Can we try from this sequence up, and can we try a version that has a little bit more breath and a little bit more sweep and a little bit more reaching for some, and if we're not totally together on each quarter note, hey, maybe that's okay. That's okay. And then when we get to the cello solo, we can still play our suspensions, but within the context of the melody. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I know perhaps I'm influencing the tempo a little bit, so I don't want to over-influence some of the wonderful decisions you guys have made. But again, in the spirit of decision-making, I guess what I would love to encourage you to do is decisions are a necessary practical part of quartet playing, but you want to be idealistic about the spirit in which you do it so that the decisions make space for all of these wonderful, rubato-y, nuanced things that can be really fun to do.
Yeah, I've been listening in the auditorium and just really enjoying the direction this is going, and also loved your first version. Just to add to what Harumi's saying, I think really be very intentional about how you play the rests. Sometimes I think, like early on, there was a rest. Don't remember exactly where it was. It seemed it took quite a lot of time. Just be sure that you want to do that. Maybe you do, but make sure that that's also part of the story. Otherwise, it stops a little bit. Just here, you know, I was thinking it's such an unusual form, this quartet, isn't it? Because it's to have an opening slow movement, and then the way we go into the second movement, it's more of a sense of fantasy maybe than typical in a string quartet. And in this kind of place where you start heating things up with the eighth notes, I can tell you guys know this music very well. And of course, when you're playing in class, it's probably a slightly different feeling to when you're liberated and you don't have any teachers on the stage, and you can just do what you want to do. But maybe let's experiment. Let's play with that a little bit. Pretend that we're not here. And when you started those eights, I thought you could have been a little more like actors who, in the freshness of the moment, are reacting to each other. So we hear, you hear some eights, and you're, I'm gonna take that idea. So that it feels a little bit more spontaneous. I think what Harumi said is quite right. I hear a lot of wonderful decisions having been made. But of course, what we do is a sort of elaborate deceit, just like an actor who plays Hamlet 6 nights a week. In the audience, we don't want the feeling when the ghost of his father appears. We don't want the feeling that, I saw him at the Saturday matinee already. So you have to remake it like it's on the one hand, you're very well prepared, but that should allow you to play it like it's the first time that you've heard, the eight's there. Okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. So there could be a little bit more of that since you play so well already.
Can we start right there? Beautiful, beautiful. I love how you're kind of stirring the pot more, you know. I like that. It feels a little bit, I love this idea that Ed's talking about. It has a little more fantasy to it. It feels a little bit less like we're in an Adagio movement and a little bit more like we're in flight, in search for something. Right where we got to, this is another place I wholeheartedly appreciate and completely agree that the sentiment here in these that starts with the second violin melody and then moves to the viola, that there is a feeling of sadness in here. But I wonder if there's a little part of me that could convince you that there's also a little bit of hope in here too. That we're playing around with this idea of what if. Maybe there's an element of this melody that has a what if quality to it. So maybe something in the way we play the eighth notes in the tune can have that feeling of possibility. If the eighth notes feel a little bit like you're telling us something, then it's a little tricky to make magic on the passing. Can we just try right there? Can you give us a measure number, Leah?
Just to jump in for a second, you'll notice, just have a quick look, Richard's out in the auditorium there, so he's sitting up the top there. I was sitting up that side. Just keep in your kind of peripheral thinking the whole space. Just occasionally, I feel like you guys are I'm a tiny bit physically aware of it being just happening all here. And it's happening here extremely well. And of course, this movement is very intimate. It's not like you're trying to smack us in the face with this. You are drawing us in, but maybe just in terms of posture a little bit on the outside, you guys can be a tiny bit more open sometimes.
Great. Beautiful. I mean, it was beautiful before too. You know, this is an embarrassment of riches because we're having a moment where we're just sort of, again, greedy is the only word I can think of. You know, that we keep the things that you're doing, but maybe having a version that includes space for other things as well. Right where we got to. We have this fantastic first violin moment, and then we have this moment of action, right? I'm wondering, could we try a version where when we embark on this moment, that it doesn't feel like a subito new character, like we know what we're doing, ta 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 ti da da pits da ta ta ti da da pits da da ta ti da da. Could we try a version that's a little bit more like, again, this idea that Ed's talking about of being actors in the moment? We have no idea what's going to happen, right? Could we try right here, and then we should probably do a little bit of the second movement as well, yeah. Beautiful.
That was lovely, and then we definitely have a moment of hope with the great viola solo there in F major, so that's a sunny moment. Maybe we can just jump to the end of the movement, just the last however many measures is helpful for you guys. There's nothing in the score that suggests this, but we quite like to have a little bit of a sense of attacca from because the first movement ends kind of questioning, or at least something provisional about it. It feels to us as though that second movement comes out of the beginning and comes out of the first movement. And with that in mind, I mean, I was actually sitting on the stage room, you were in the hall. My impression was you could risk something a little more furtive sometimes at the beginning, a little bit more secretive and kind of with a little bit more sense of just this kind of suspenseful, hushed playing. Maybe particularly at the end of the movement where I didn't quite hear that pianissimo right at the end. But even at the beginning, we could, and that it's always a question with the bow stroke there is like how articulate versus how brushy, and we have a variety of opinions in our quartet about that. So we're always trying to find some sort of solution for that. So
pick a spot right at the end, and we'll make the segue into let's try the quasi-attacca. Great. Fantastic. Nice feeling of suspense. I like that. Could we try, if we buy into this idea of a little bit of danger, like not too happy-go-lucky, if we like that idea, maybe we could get rid of some of the accents on every bar. I'm hearing a little bit of a sameness. I'm exaggerating. But can we, what makes it dangerous is that, and then the accent is where? Yeah. Could we try a version that maybe has a little bit more in that direction? We can always make it more articulate, right? The guys will tell us if we need more articulation, but let's try it this way first. So the psychology of piano, so the dynamic is piano, right? So I understand that we want a character that's a bit more extrovert, otherwise no one can hear us, right? So we want to have some bite, and we want to have some real character to the stroke. But why is it piano as opposed to just mezzo forte, do you think? I mean, she could have written mezzo forte. Also, she could write piano, and we could just play mezzo forte. That's also possible. But so even if we do play mezzo forte, what's the psychology of piano? What are we feeling inside?
It's more to the character, more secretive, more mischievous.
Yeah, I'm missing that a little bit. Can you humor me once and really exaggerate that more?
Nice. This is a slightly sassy question, but the tempo marking here is Allegretto. Can you just play the tempo that you would play if she had marked Allegro? Okay, good. And I'm not going to ask you for Allegro molto and presto and prestissimo. So it's a slightly obnoxious way of suggesting you might be a tiny bit fast in my taste for Allegretto. I don't know whether that's just also because we keep stopping you. It's hard to gauge that. But I think this secretive thing can work if there's a tiny bit more, I agree, not first beat accents, but a tiny bit more resistance in the... So there's a tiny bit more poise in the whole thing. Should we just try one more time? Yeah, good. Did that feel very weird to you? Be honest. Bit strange.
Yeah, but I think we like the feeling of it. We just need to work out the articulations and stuff. Yeah.
It might be just something to think about. I mean, there's lots of possibilities here. We've played it a number of different tempi, so.
I'm just wondering, are you thinking of pleasant playing or something else as well? The general attitude.
He was asking if you're thinking of something that's more pleasant or something a little bit different.
Not pleasant, because of the key as well.
So my point is, I wish it would be more of a character what the cello is playing, full of nervous energy. So there should be, and that would correspond to what Ed was asking of the holding. It would also correspond to the suppressed dynamic, and maybe it would fall in the way, because it's extremely uncomfortable for the cello, and you play it very well.
Yeah, amazing.
But I'm missing that kind of.
Yeah, let's try. Oh, if you can humor us, let's try this one. Let's try one last time, and maybe we could imagine that has something a little bit more of like witches dancing around a cauldron, which is quite smoky. So there's something kind of smoky about it, but then the jagged edges are like the pointy green nose with a big wart on it. I don't know. It doesn't have to be that. But so it isn't just articulate and it isn't just smoky, but there's a little bit of both.
Nice. Yeah. Great. Great. Yeah, so that we get a sense that I don't think we should have a sense at this beginning of this movement, after the first movement, that suddenly all is right with the world. I don't think we're quite there. But for that, can we just as a last thing, just listen to this wonderful C major.
Ah, yes.
Where it comes, the middle section. And, you guys sounded fantastic. Nothing seemed difficult for you. Again, I would just imagine something a tiny bit broader. Just a tiny bit more vocal, or I don't know, Harumi, I think you hear this very vocally.
Yeah, I mean, it has a little bit of an Hosanna in Excelsis feeling to it, like, like a little bit like a chorus. So, and so I would imagine, like, there's a little bit of Kyrie in there, right? Like, can we try that? So not too fast and more oratorio feeling. Could we try that?
Yeah. Great. Nice, great. Yeah, exactly, and I think very proud at the beginning that the viola starts. I'm so sorry that we are out of time, but what a wonderful group, and please come and. Yeah. Thank you.
Fantastic. Wow. Truly amazing. It was so impressively colorful and just fantastical. Is that a word? So amazing to listen to. Every detail, and also the quartet sound overall was remarkable. this is completely ready for, you guys are CD ready. This is so ready. It's just, you know, I mean, I'm serious. It's such a luxury. This whole piece seems to be in the spirit of this idea of transformation and variation, and this idea of taking an idea and making it the most wonderfully fantastic different thing, and seeing how it can evolve and move and fly and live a life of its own, right? So I thought in that spirit we could work on it a little bit. I mean, this is extra. It's just really fantastic. I'm wondering in the beginning, there's this interesting marking of what? What does he write? Sol tasto. And what is the actual direction of the movement?
Just one bow over the fingerboard and in chromatics.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. Chromatics over the fingerboard and sol tasto. And yes, it gives us a movement title almost, right? Like a little direction there on the top. Evan, is that right? Yeah.
Allegro grazioso.
What's up with that? What's up with the grazioso? I don't know about you guys, but like, I mean, I could think of more grazioso things in my life. Okay, jokes aside, how can we incorporate that in our interpretation? And maybe you are, forgive me for stating the obvious, but I don't feel that it's that obvious. Can we try, you know, when we rehearse, a lot of times we talk about things in percentages, right? Because sometimes it's just a matter of how we mix things in the recipe. So in the recipe, I'm getting lots of pianissimo and lots of long line and lots of legato, all the things he told us to do. Wondering if we could have a little more of the dolce in bar 7 and a little more of the grazioso. How can we do that? Maybe the sol tasto is the key. Can we try the beginning?
Great, you guys. I don't mean to. I thought that was very great suggestion to get that flow maybe more into the chromatics, or sort of these atmospheres like clouds that are ascending. How many in the audience know this piece? Have you heard this piece? Harumi mentioned we have a few. One. Variations. What do you think is being varied? What is the motive? What is the stuff that's getting worked on?
The violin theme, the da 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 da.
Yeah. So it's basically those intervallic things, the da dum, like a step, and then you transpose it up. That's it. That's the whole kit and caboodle. One of my favorite Ligeti quotes was that at one of his birthday concerts, they said he liked pitch prisons. I thought that was a little bit of a dark way of thinking about it, but it's sort of true. Like you have this cell that gets developed, and I'm wondering along those lines. I love this smoky ascending thing that was sort of like mysterious. Is this a question or an answer? Sorry to be so basic. When you first pose this, is it like I am telling you now? Or is it da-da-da-dum? To me, the shapeliness of a motive is often one of the biggest things in a piece. If you're an architect, you build things with shapes. If you're a musician and a composer, what are you trying to build your building with, your musical building?
intervals. And
Intervals. It's all about the intervals, those pitch prisms. So the da-dum, ba-da. I think the low one, da-dum, da-da, because it's just right after, it's in succession, and it's a half step, so it's kind of creepy crawly, and it's higher. So even though you have dolce, I see a down bow, but I'm wondering, can you try it on an up bow? And something has to be transmitted to the audience. We always have to assume that our audience has never heard a piece, whether it be Beethoven, Ligeti, or anything, that this is the point of recreation is now. There's been no time since the composer finished it. It's now. It's being recreated in real time. So this starts. You have to give them somehow, we need to transmit that that's the DNA. It's the DNA of the entire piece. How are we going to do that? How are we going to get that in your sound?
Let's try.
Try it. Try it just without me. Maybe, actually, can you just do it two ways? Get maybe to bar. I'm sorry, I'm reaching over your shoulder. Yeah, perfect. Try it two different ways. Sorry to stop now. Stop, think about what happened. Now give me a totally different version of that. And still, really, we need the whole universe, this whole musical universe is dependent on that being communicated to your audience. Because if we don't give them that lifeline, they won't know what's being developed. They'll just be hearing a lot of colors and a lot of emotions and a lot of energy, but they won't know the stuff. We need the stuff.
It's really beautiful. Can we try one version, since violin already exposed the thing? If the two of you wouldn't compete, but more like establishing a horizontal atmosphere. It's a little bit soloistic instead of just try to remain in that wonderfully suppressed atmosphere.
One more thing. Rather than think that the color is always left-hand dependent, can you do more with the paintbrush of the bow? Can you do more with bow speed variations, point of contact, and switch? Right now it's very much da-da-da-da-da, it's very, very even. Can you just, we need to play with people's expectations as performers. We need to get them to be interested and get them to wonder what we're doing. And if we always give them very solid bow, even if we vibrate, it's almost like me talking in the same amount of tone, and I'm giving you something. Make it a little bit, just make it more mysterious.
We can try that on the long notes, especially. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Sometimes one thing, I know this might seem like bad advice, but sometimes I find in a piece like this that can feel quite circular and tricky to work on in many respects because it's all one big movement, right? Is to jump around a little bit. You know how your teacher told you not to do that sometimes when you were little, like just stick to one thing and focus, you know? But sometimes I like to jump around a little bit. So can we try letter A? And I'm wondering, and no fear, because we're working on basically the same motive like the whole piece, right? It's just in different transformations. So we're sort of, so can we try A, and let's try a version where we're really sensitized to when the intervals open up and when they close inwards. Again, obvious, but in the heat of the moment, sometimes a little bit less obvious. So when we open up the intervals, I'm wondering if we can physically and sonically, literally feel more open, and when we close them up, that we feel like we're closing the flower as opposed to opening it up. So can we just try a version like that? And then when we get to bar 80, let's try a version where the piano eighth notes are almost inaudible. And once we get that next thematic material in Evan's part, we'll stop there and chat about that spot. So let's try letter A. Great, no problem. No, I said we'd stop there. Great. Can we slow it down once, like 85% tempo? It's still going to be fast, right? With all the character you want. And let's try a version where you feel like you're crescendoing to the opening of the intervals, but not rushing. And that the yadadum is soft and concise and the opposite emotionally of the opening up. So da 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 da. Does that make sense? So 85% tempo.
Just because it's just for the audience because they've never heard this before. Ba bum ba ba, the G F B B flat. If you were to make it local instead of distant, how would that feel of the intervals? Sol fa si si. What do you think of those four notes? Where would the gravity be towards in the shape? Ba 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 ba. Last one? Maybe even though you're, now it's transposed the jumping of the octaves, but think about intervallically that maybe there's always a gravity to the shape. There's a need to go somewhere.
So 85% tempo, exaggerating this shape. Great. I love this. You guys probably rehearse like this, right? 85% tempo with lots of character and all that. I love this idea. I love that. I'm hearing all kinds of yummy details that that are all keepers. Let's keep this. This is great. Okay, Evan, let's chat about your tune here. Can we try a version? Let's play by yourself once. Is that okay? Okay, try a version once just by yourself where you, within your little micro shape, really exaggerate when you're opening the interval and when you're closing it down. Like, I would almost imagine like you're putting on a mask that has a different face right here. Can we try that? So I think that's fantastic. That was really, really great. And the more you can imagine something that has accents that don't all sound the same, sure. Right? So just like we worked on that da 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 theme, da da da, right? So this idea of that transforming cell. So that we always feel like, even when we're playing loud, hard, and fast, that it has this kind of morphed, characteristic shape to it. So I keep using the word shape because I think this kind of music can always use more shape, always, you know, even just the way we look at it on the page. So even, remember how we did that 85% tempo when we took those, in the previous section where we played those piano eighth notes like inaudible? Personally, I think that's a keeper. I know you might think that's exaggerated, but it sounded fantastic. And then it pops out this stuff. Do you guys mind if we skip to a different spot? Or
We don't need to play this again. It sounds fantastic. This is very basic, sorry, but I'm thinking about this stuff all the time. Sometimes in your louder playing, I felt looking around the group and also the way it sounded, that you could risk varying the contact points a little bit more. I think you have a very good sound. It's never rough sounding really. Maybe occasionally it could be, and be a little bit risk. There's a sort of an area right towards closer to the bridge before the sound really cracks on you, where I think there could be more range, and that could actually help with some of these shape questions. Sometimes you're not utilizing that as much as you might, I think. Right near the end where you have those chords where you keep repeating chords, I didn't think there was enough bite on the beginning of the notes. It was a little bit softened up. So maybe just look for the opportunity to be even a little bit more percussive. When you're playing very quietly, that can also be the case. Being very quiet doesn't necessarily mean you have to be over the fingerboard for those short strokes. I think sometimes actually if you're closer to the bridge, then you can play even quieter because you're still going to have character that goes out. Sorry.
Just to add to it, same opinion, except I loved very much, I mean, this kind of mechanics worked very well when he's playing homage to Britain. That part, but here especially for the very soulful, after the very soulful intro, I need a little more primal, almost stiffy, bitey wrist. So don't be too beautiful.
In that spirit, let's try letter F. So what I'd love to do here is get this molto capriccioso part. You guys are smiling. Is this a spot? Is this one of those spots? Okay, well, let's work on it. Molto capriccioso, and then, speaking of transformation, we have this sort of hockety thing that goes on for quite a while with a crescendo, stringento, molto. This was so impressive what you guys did. If we're going to do it again, I would maybe put your heart and soul into how this music changes over time. So I'm getting a lot of character and a lot of tempo, and I'm getting a lot of spiccato, and the ensemble is fantastic. So again, I'm being greedy. I want all of that. But what I also want in addition is the change in sound over this whole part so that we get both the crescendo and the stringendo. I didn't hear either one of those before. Sorry to be blunt. Okay, let's try it. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's try the 85% version, but with all the yummy stuff in it. Oh, E's fine, yeah. Great. I have one small suggestion, and pardon me, this is just a matter of taste. I'm wondering if, as we enter into bar 202, if we're already way too loud. Just a question. If you choose to drop there, don't let us know. Does that make sense? Okay, let's do it again. 85%.
Could you do some of these arpeggiations more with the right hand fingers rather than the whole arm? I think the ba-dum, 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 ba, it's making it very, very big. Da-da-da, ba-da, ba-da, ba. Just really throw it use your virtuoso right hand fingers as much as you use the arm. Intervals. Is this interval a consonant interval or a dissonant? And I know, of course, it's a dissonant interval, but how dissonant do you want it? Do you want it to sound a little bit more like a chord of an E flat and a D, or do you want it to be like, oh, pain? Do, dee, da. Those, our little friend of the half step, but now it's just, I don't necessarily think, I think we could do, but I don't think there's nothing comforting. We've heard these intervals now a lot. So can you try this as like maybe do a piano tuning? So really tempered. So da, the E flat is the root, and the D is not too tight. Can you just try that D, E flat?
Richard, sorry, we don't need to go back on it. Listening in the hall at E, I'm not quite convinced yet by that pianissimo color. It still sounds a little bit bright and a little bit present. So what might you do next time to make an even more special color there? Any idea?
Less bow, more over the fingerboard.
I like the second part of that, more over the fingerboard. I actually would use a little more bow, so it's a little wispier, the sound. It's a little bit too, in this wonderful space, you can risk that, I think. And then another thing just to work on a little bit, the crescendo, stringendo near the end, it doesn't actually sound like it's getting louder in the hall. And that's a problem for all of us somehow, just the way it's marked. So just revisit that bit. Sorry, Richard, I didn't mean to interrupt.
You've heard this comment a little bit from all of us, that we're not hearing the crescendo. So maybe sometimes there's a way you can think about it a little bit less linearly. If we have many, many notes that crescendo and we think of each one getting louder than the previous, we run out of space, right? So why don't we try a version where we really just bring out the accents and barely play the other guys? And then pick a moment where maybe you start grouping in maybe 2 bars. And then when you get to that triple fortissimo, maybe start thinking crescendo. And then maybe in the last bar and a half, play every darn note. Does that make sense? Okay, let's try this version one more time. And if we have time, we can go on to this next section, which is maybe my favorite part of the whole spot. I mean, I'm a little biased because I'm a second violinist, but it's a really awesome spot, right? Yeah.
I'm torturing you. It's important to me because I think, do you feel the E flat is the root of the chord of the D? Sorry.
Depends on what.
I think you are the alpha and omega. I think the E, maybe the E flat, and then maybe the D is a nice seventh. It's not a painful seventh. I think it's a little bit more zen. So I think he can do the, if you're not solid with your pitch, then how can he bend? How can he do all the blue notes? He wants to do the blue notes. I think you should be the adult of the intonation world here. Right there. Just hit that. You just play an E flat against you. And play your open D. Yeah, just try that. Just a very, very calm and collected seventh. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm so sorry to interrupt. Oh gosh, I don't want to stop. I'm so sorry. I'm wondering if we could try something a little different here. It's safe in the knowledge that this works beautifully. How cool is that, right? We have a version that really works. Can we try a version that's a little bit more espressivo and maybe a sound that I feel like we're using a tone that's a little bit, so I love the intentionality of the tone that we're using, okay? But I wonder if it's a bit streamlined. It feels a bit digital to me. Sorry to be blunt. Can we try a sound that feels a little bit more like it has gills on a fish? Like, can it have a little more of a human quality to it? I'm exaggerating a little bit, so forgive me for being blunt, but humor me. Can we try it one more time? And safe in the knowledge that this first version works quite well. Yeah.
I think this is consistent with Harumi's point in the cello where you come in there. I think it's incredibly sensitive playing, but I think I say it as a violinist, I think you're almost trying to sound too much like a violin there, which isn't necessarily a good thing. So really embrace the cello sonority there. I think maybe just a little bit richer in the sounds there, and especially this kind of Hungarian trope where the grieving quality comes from this feeling on the first, the ta-da, even if it's not marked with an accent, that's kind of very much the Bartokian kind of ta-da, so that there's always pain and depth in that.
This version might work nicely now that we have this slightly different approach to the viola chord. Andy, is that right? So now that we have this voice underneath us, maybe we could have this more human approach in our tone. Can we try that?
Fantastic. I'm really sorry to cut you off here. Can you remind us all when exactly you're performing this piece?
Next Sunday.
Next Sunday, and where is that?
Here.
Fantastic. Well, what a wonderful group. Please
great.
come and hear them
So
play
great.
the whole piece.
Wonderful playing, thank you very much. Right at the beginning, the first motive, what are the thoughts about that? Character-wise. Character-wise, how?
Wow, this was really important. I think the first one, for me personally, is like a suggestion. It's kind of not as confident as the second time I play it. Yeah.
It's good, but the general attitude, apart from a question, what the behavior, what are you thinking of?
Yeah, I mean, I see it as slightly playful, but also a little on the mysterious side as well.
Could we emphasize the slightly playful to much more playful? Actually, what I was missing, I sensed a certain seriousness in it. Could, first of all, your eyes be more funny? No, it's up, I mean, the guy is up to no good, right? So it's a cheeky thing. and also the answer maybe should play along. It was a little bit too balanced mentally. So try again.
You know what I was thinking. I just went out into the lobby, so I heard a little bit of this in the lobby with the beautiful campus in front of me there, and I was thinking it's almost not so much a piece for a concert hall or a masterclass. It's for outside and one of these wonderful pastoral walks that Beethoven took when he was composing. So maybe imagine yourselves out there on the lawn instead of in here with the Takács Quartet looming.
No, actually, I did take those walks in Beethoven's path just outside Vienna in Grinzing. It was wonderful, just as Ed described, in a 45% humidity. Much better, wonderful, thank you. And I love the brilliant. Now, when finally we have something rolling, can we be a tiny bit less vertical? Okay, now I'm taking over. Now I'm taking 1 unit, please. Just there. Almost perfection. Individually, technically, can we play hum instead of a cut?
Yeah, so that you're sort of inviting the other person to join you with that last note.
Perfect, thank you. Now, I love the atmosphere. The cello, are you playing with the middle finger? Middle finger. Middle finger this direction. No. Downward. Now, and are you with the middle finger? Are you smiling enough? It sounds a tiny bit vertical and proper. Big smile, and then you are helping them along. Last time.
Yeah, good. I mean, so what's he up to here with this weird little thing? What do you think, character, sound-wise, what have you been talking about? By the way, have you guys have already performed this, or is it coming up next week? On Saturday, or it's either on Saturday or Sunday. Great, fantastic. Yeah. So what are you thinking for this? Searching, finding a way. Good. Can it sound a little more like that in terms of the type of sound you're making?
It sounds a little too confident, like you exactly know where you are going, but we are supposed to get lost a little.
Good. And Great. What's the other thing that's quite humorous about the way he's scored this compared with everything that we've heard so far? The second violin only comes in every other one. That's true. I suppose there is a little bit of a second violin joke there. I wasn't thinking that so much. I was thinking actually that it's remarkably unified. Yeah, there's the rhythm is straightforward. It's just quarter notes. You all have the same shape. It's completely different to this kind of spinning a long melody around. Can you just a little bit enjoy that a bit more? I'd like to sort of see you just lean into the group, everyone, just a tiny bit more when you play. There are some wonderful unisons in this movement, especially towards the end. So really, like, psychologically, it's one of those places where imagine yourselves reading this for the first time. You've been thoroughly confused by the opening and, like, who's got the oh, it's me, and then around, you know, it's very confusing. And then, oh, what's this? Oh, we're all playing together, basically, here. So a little bit of wonderment at that feature. Nice. I'm just gonna. That's much better. You guys can probably play that by memory, I imagine. Yeah. You know those notes, yeah. So maybe we don't need to look at our music there.
Do you mind if can you jump to 109? How many have played other of the late quartets? Have you played? Does that remind you of something? Da-da-dee-dum. That obsession, he's not quite over it. We thought we were done and onto a new style. So I think it's sort of pointing to that. At the beginning, it's a little bit of an enigma because it's hidden. But I think he shows us now that's what he's, maybe that little cipher thing is not gone. So I think, can you now apply that, reverse engineer it to the first one?
Since Richard made us so forward-looking, as the bowing, I wish you would imagine here in the exposition the same thing. So 2 and 2 instead of 4 times 1. Then, could we get rid of that boom with the up?
Good. It's a very good version. Sometimes when we have to play things like this, we really, the three of us, imagine just building our sound on the cello sound. Can you try that a little bit more this time?
Very good, very good, very good. Can we please overplay the legato part? Wherever it's coming, because now that he's exposing the tia together with the ta-ri-dum-pum, there are just too many holes. Tia, ta-ri-dum, tia, ti-ra-dum-pum.
And if we're doing that bit again, I loved what András said at the beginning about he's up to no good. I think we could have a little bit more of an explosive, joyful crescendo to that C major that happened. And then all of these, can they be even more impish and like a little bit more snap in the dotted rhythm and just like, I think with Beethoven's humor, I mean, if you imagine being one of Beethoven's long-suffering friends, going over to have tea with him, there's a humor, but if you're one of his friends, you're not ever totally relaxed in that humor because you don't know when it's going to explode into something else. So I think it seems on the surface there's a veneer of it being very kind of classical and elegant, and it is all of those things, but there's also a tiny bit of sort of impishness and wickedness under the surface, I think. We could have a little bit more of that.
Sorry, it's already in 2. One big line.
Too many things to think about, sorry. Very nice. I'm sorry, we're picking at tiny details. It feels to us this music quite like playing Mozart. You know, there's, in every little bar, there's so many different things to talk about. Last time, I feel like in the first violin part, when you start that scale going up to the C major, could you once, you're very considerate to your colleagues, I would say there. I'm not suggesting that you should rush, but can you try and lose them a little bit? Like, you've been very cooperative in this previous place, but that's just try and lose them a little bit and see what happens. And if it all falls apart, you can just blame me. So.
Yep, wonderful. I think we missed something here. Can you enjoy the tension of your last tea-ra-tea-ra-dum-pum, and then everybody smiles, and it's piano, happy piano, right?
I loved your impulsiveness in that scale, and you didn't lose them; they were with you, which is ideal.
Very good. Now, what orchestral instrument are we talking about, newly exposed?
Winds, she said winds. Yeah.
Possible? What else could it be? In the cello?
András, which figure are you talking about?
Horn is good. Horn or trumpet. So, in other words, I loved the beam, but also the second note. And then in the viola. It's a new thing, new character. Be happy with it.
Can we just do the upbeat? And you guys, I'm just confirming, you guys do it very nicely already, but each time someone has that tune, reflect the difference of the key or the difference of the register. It's always just slightly different as it moves. Yeah, good. This is a matter of, well, all of these things are a matter of taste. It's one of the wonderful things about any string quartet, especially late Beethoven, that groups can sound so different. I'd love to hear a version where the figure, the dee-da-da-pop-dee-dee-dee-dee, that is more contrasted to the more legato things. And maybe also not landing on the first, so that we always get more sense of it being an upbeat. So not dee-da-dum, but and with a really a sort of spoken. I think one of the previous groups was talking about the difference between something that's spoken and sung. Maybe yours that figure can be more spoken.
Not to interrupt, but have you guys listened to the ladder movements? The Musa sign? What is Esmu sign? What interval is that? Esmu sign, dum bum bum bum. That fourth is just the most loving, encompassing interval. So when it comes in, when it first appears now, it should really foretell that it's just opening this generous door in the piece.
Maybe same place one more time. A little bit more second violin darkness in the D minor when you have it. Nice. Yeah, great. Really, really great playing. I don't know about you, but I always find this bit here quite difficult for intonation whenever we play it. Just one tip there that, like, without being, of course, you don't want to suddenly look like you're thinking about the tuning, but I find as I'm going up this dum dum ding ding dum bum ba, is to be a little bit more stable, maybe not quite so doing this, but feel that you've got a really stable support, feel the shoulder rests against so that it's a little bit more open, and you've got a little bit more security just for dun 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 dun. Once you hit the top C, then you can be nice and free. But I find if I'm doing this while I'm going up, it's a little bit dangerous. Great, can we just pick it up just 2 measures before that, 30, 38, is that all right? When you get to the, yeah, it's very nice. We didn't quite get there, but the pianissimo just coming up, where is that, 40, the last measure of that, yeah, 50, could be even more special character. Yeah, good. That's very good. But this last chord sounds like you know that that's going to happen. So it could, because it could go dun, din, don, dum, bum, dun, din, don, dun, da. What's going on there? He's up to his tricks again. Can we just do, just the measure before that is enough, I think. Yeah, one more time. Good, very good. I liked your first rest was great, and then the other rests I felt a little too relaxed, like you were just using them to get to the right part of the bow or something. But I think all of these rests are like, what's happening here? You know, think about that friend, you know, he's over in Beethoven's house and he's beginning to regret coming over for tea. Because he doesn't know what story is being told here. You know, we don't know what the story is right now. I mean, and we should, what I mean is we shouldn't. Same place, yeah. Great. You guys play very, very well, and this was nicely set up, I think, by all these rests. Can you add to that, risk a tiny bit more profile, those of you who have the 30-second notes at the end of dee-dee-yadum, yadum? Because sometimes that gets a little bit swallowed. It sounds a little bit like a 16th note, or doesn't. It's a very important part of the suspense in this really extraordinary development section, isn't it? When he's kind of going into the laboratory with these themes and kind of messing around with them. Can we just start from the cello entrance? I think you could even start a little more mysterioso, the way, not the way you play, but just the upbeat is already in the character. Yeah, and that's one of those unfortunate explosions where the guest might drop his teacup on the floor. Can we just hear that, right? Just as if you... Sometimes it's good, it's quite hard going into that. So can we just hear how you would like it to sound if you were just playing da-da-da-dum? Good, how did you feel about that? Did you like that version? You want to try it one more time? And again, just starting together. Yeah, it's not quite starting together. One more time. Yes, of course. Good. And this brings us to this very tricky question of the manuscript in this piece, which I'm sure you guys, as we did, have puzzled over, because there are two different autograph versions and they have different rhythms in them. And sometimes this is an example where in the three parts here we have a rhythm da-da-da-dim, and then in the first violin we have da-dum, ba-da. That's, I think, what you're playing, yeah? Some groups don't play that. They just standardize it, and I admire the fact that you're really going for it. But I think if you're doing that, you need to be a bit more extreme, so that we hear from you guys, da-da-da-dum. Can we just hear the three of you, maybe from the downbeat, whatever's easiest for you? Good, so that you're very insistent, da-da-da-dum. One more time. Yeah, and definitely not rushing, because you know that your first violinist colleague's got to get in a ba-dum. And now really put a little bit of zing on that, da-da, ya-dum.
I'm sorry, you guys, can you start the stroke with the fingers rather than the whole arm? Ta-da. So grab it with the string, don't initiate with the arm. That first thing with a little bit of left hand vibrato and a little bit of fingers, pa-da, to get it to speak, and then pull with the bow. I think so.
Yeah, I think the beginning of the note can still have a bit more ba-da on it.
Is all of you thinking what this gesture means? Because we had a tu or ida, and then some others ya-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-bee. But he might just, enough of all of this. Yeah. I can start hearing your intention by the last two notes, but it would be nice.
Right away, yeah. So again, still without first violin, just to make the rhythm solid here. Good, and can we add the tricky rhythm? Good. Now let's put that in context. Where would be a good place to start? And then I should hand over to someone else. I'm definitely talking too much. Okay, good. I'm sorry, I'm going to say one more thing. This what functionally is happening what in the structure of the music here when you start da-da-da-dum, bi-di-di-dim, what do we think is happening there? Recapitulation, exactly, recapitulation of thing. And then being Beethoven, he takes us in a different direction with that A minor stuff, yeah? So again, I felt it was a little bit like you knew this, you know, and that's, we were talking about this earlier, that this is the sort of deception we have to practice, that of course, we wouldn't want to hear a concert where you didn't know what was coming next. Of course not. We want to feel that you're prepared, but having done the preparation, can you now recreate a sense of surprise when you do that change? Okay. Just from the sort of fake recap thing.
It's wonderful playing. It would be even more enjoyable if it would be piano or pianissimo. I forgot what it. So, and what instrument is that? Please.
What was it? Sorry, what was the instrument you said? Oboe. Oh. Nice.
This figure here, all these eighth notes searching, I feel like they're maybe getting a little bit out of the context, getting quite loud and confident quite early. Can we stay kind of smoky a bit longer? Can we try that? Just right where that starts? Great, really great to give you a chance to play. That sounded fantastic. Just here, another tiny detail. If we pick it up at this pianissimo, which measure is that for you guys? Great. 2 bars after that, I know it's hard coming out of that bit, isn't it? But maybe if you all think about not landing on that downbeat, and then we have 2 bars. I know there's a tiny little swell in that bar, and then the next bar has no crescendo, yeah? So I think if you could think about that more as a 4-bar phrase,
diddle 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 diddle. Suspenseful, you can only hear. Does that make sense? Because I think it sort of came out of its shell too quickly. So I know I keep making silly jokes about, afternoon tea and this kind of thing, but actually, I think it is a kind of a comedy of social manners, this movement. But there's a lot beneath the surface, as there often is with comedies of social manners. So the impishness, the kind of slightly sassy, the unpredictability is very important within this kind of sort of gloss of refinement, if you like. So I think all of these things are great to bring through. Can we just pick it up just at that pianissimo?
This is a hard place to start. I'm wondering if that spot, we find that spot tricky too. I'm wondering if that spot feels a little pixelated. Can we actually almost imagine like a slight swing in the rhythm? Not that we're gonna swing the rhythm, but like just inside if your body rhythm could swing a little bit, it feels a little tight and pixelated. Sorry to be blunt. Would you try that?
Just because we're a little bit short of time, and I want to make sure we get to the end. So where you have that unison, there's a crescendo bar 4 before that. Maybe we could pick it up there. I think that there's a different ways of thinking of that. I personally like to use the bow in a way where I know the grace notes are important, but we hear in terms of bow distribution a little bit more so you can play a lot of left-hand articulation, but not da-da-dun-dun-dun-dun, but there's, different ways of playing it. But try it once that way, so I hear the profile of the yan-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
That's I love the frame. I love that. Can we also have just a little more shape once we get there? Are you guys thinking crescendo or try a crescendo?
Mm-hmm. And it's a place to build on the cello sound again. Maybe in the violins, not quite so, but especially at the beginning. Very, very nice timing. Maybe don't rush the very last gesture. Gently putting the teacup down on the saucer.
Try it one more time, and when within the legato slur, I understand that there are fragmented spoken bits that we want to have, but commit to the legato in these last 8 bars.
Just after just where the viola starts again, yeah. Great. I'd just like to say a couple of things. First of all, I think we've established you guys are performing this on Saturday. Is that right? Great. So no ambiguity there. Please come and hear them. And then just to say how joyful it has been for all of us in the quartet to get to work with these extraordinary fellows, and we've just had a wonderful time. It's an extraordinary program here, and many different elements we know go into making this all possible, and we're certainly very grateful to have been here this afternoon. Thank you so much for coming, and thanks to this wonderful group.
Thank you so much.